But I think the best thing that Fulbright gave me is realize that you don't live in a bubble and take advantage of the fact that you live and work in an institution that really values diversity. So realize that when you're going somewhere, don't ask what can be done for me, what can you do for me? Put it the other way around, what can I do for you? And so in my application process, I went from, yes, this is gonna help me pursue my dream of international public relations, but I was able to say in my personal statement that this is, helping Fulbright demonstrate the beauty of America and the American dream that is still very much, very well and alive. And I was able to say that, I can exhibit how, impoverished immigrants from Iran came to the United States, had a child that went and graduated. I was the first person to graduate from college in my family, and then the first woman to get my master's in my family. And so this was the thing that I wanted to exude to Fulbright. And now, even though it's been a few months since I've been back in the Tampa Bay area, I want to give back to Fulbright. I want to continue that legacy. So keep that in mind when you apply to any program, particularly this program. Senator Fulbright, when he made this program, this was during World War II. I mean, the world was like an apocalypse, right? And so he created this to like you said before, that this was a way to fight war. Because then when you develop relationships and you foster empathy and understanding, that is what Fulbright is. And if you can understand that, and if you can showcase that, I have no doubt that you'll be able one day to call yourself a Fulbrighter.
Well, thank you, all of the panelists, for that wonderful information. Thank you. So, with your question, if you could just stand up and let us know your name and whether your question is for a specific person on the panel or just for the panel itself.
Yes. Hi. So I'm a Fulbright scholar, as you can see by the t-shirt, from Scotland, studying at USF. I'm doing my PhD here. So my question was, Rue, you mentioned this sort of in your last question, but it's to everyone. Sort of the thing that separates Fulbright is, mixing the cultures and getting to know your community. And one thing they do want is for you, when you come back to your country, is to bring what you learned from your host country. So I was going to ask, how are you guys doing that now, or how did you do that when you came back?
I would say one of the things that the best lessons that I learned from Fulbright was to take care of myself mentally and emotionally. So a lot of the Spanish people, if I have to hear this phrase one more time, they would always say, no pasa nada, don't worry about it, take it easy. And you could always tell the American or the foreigner versus the Spanish person walking in the street. I would demonstrate by my heels and I would fall over, but like the Spanish person would take their time walking down leisurely, and the foreigner would be on the rush with the coffee. Literally, it was like that. And so when I came back, I think that I turned down a couple of job offers in Washington and San Francisco because one, I wanted to stay in Tampa because I realized this is a very growing, emerging market, not only in sense of jobs, but in diversity. And two, and right now, I work as a contractor for PwC, and I love it and I appreciate it. But down the line, what I really want to do is to be able to help cultivate programs like this, or outreach like this, of getting the word out of the importance of programs like this.
So in the purely academic sense, I'm very much still in touch with my German program because my supervisor in Germany is now co-chair of my doctoral committee, and 3 of my laboratory mates that I shared either office space or lab time with are now co-authors on 2 journal papers that I'm in the process of attempting to publish right now. So that, in a very literal sense, keeps me connected to my German program. Beyond that, I'm going to say that Germany's cultivated a certain amount of stubbornness in me. Germans are a stubborn people in general, and I found that one of the most frustrating things they go on and on about the German language requirements, and I said to myself, I'm going to learn German. One of the biggest problems I had there was that Germans will not speak German to you. The nanosecond they detect that your accent is foreign, and it doesn't have to be American. You could be French, you could be British, you could be Italian, you could be whatever. As long as your accent is not German, they'll switch to English. So I actually came back with a very bad, my German is not actually very good. And only towards the second half of the year did I really get stubborn about persistently speaking German, even when they kept saying, oh, for goodness sakes, will you switch to English? We understand you. And I think that benefits me, because it makes me a little bit more tenacious about doing things, even in the face of people saying, you can do this a simpler way. I'm like, no, I want to do this my way. There is an academic sailing program for oceanography students, the International Ocean Discovery Program, and it's a very prestigious program to sail with, and I really wanted to sail with that program. So I went to one of the supervisors here at USF who had done it before, and I asked her if she'd write me a recommendation. And I didn't even get the sentence out before she said, she said, you'll never forget it, you'll never get into it, you're not nearly qualified enough. And that pissed me off so much that I immediately went back to my office and started the application. I just pretended that she was my office mate who had said, oh, for goodness sakes, will you just speak English? But I went back to my office and I wrote the application, and yeah, I got it.
So, I mean, I think that for me, one of the things that I carried back was just this very deep commitment to a sort of international perspective and trying to foster communication back and forth. And perhaps I carried that quite far in that I became sort of a professional cultural translator as an anthropologist. And I think that it's, been very gratifying to be able to say, look, it's a big and small world, and here are some different ways that we can talk about it. And I think that, that can happen in classrooms, it can happen at Thanksgiving, or whatever your preferred holiday is. And it's big and small ways all the time. And so I think that can apply, during your experience, but after your experience as well, wherever you land up afterwards.
Heather, did you want to speak briefly about any ways that students can get formally involved in their communities after Fulbright? And Darlene, you can certainly speak up and comment on that too in terms of the Mid-Florida Alumni Association.
Great. So we definitely recommend that you stay in touch with us, with IIU, with your advisor. You start kind of flow through different organizations, and at my organization, different work streams. And you start with like pre-applicant advising, outreach and recruitment, and then you'll have an advisor. And if you give them permission, we can put your information on the website, which will include sometime in the future, it's been approved, but a searchable database. So you can put yourself on there as a way to connect with students who may be looking for mentors before they go abroad. That's one way. And then of course, being connected with your alumni associations and Fulbright associations. And sometimes, depending on the area that you're in, it's not necessarily big city, small city. There's very active Fulbright associations that are in smaller areas, bigger areas where there's not so many active Fulbright associations. So you'll want to, find out what works for you, and that's one way to get involved. But that community is meant to, you'll get a Fulbright email address for lifetime, which is a great benefit in doing outreach and connecting with people and things like that. Stay active on social media, follow #Fulbright, and tell your story. Come to us, we will write blog articles, we'll invite you to events. You can be part of the Alumni Ambassador Program, which includes hundreds of alumni ambassadors who apply to be part of this program and travel and do outreach, conduct outreach, connect with applicants on behalf of the Fulbright U.S. Student Program. So those are just a couple of ways that we can keep you engaged, and I look forward to hearing what really happens when the grant ends. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
Those of you who are returning Fulbrighters and those of you visiting, we have a Mid-Florida chapter of the Fulbright Association, a very, very active chapter that invites participation. And those of you who haven't been Fulbrighters still can join as friends of Fulbright, because we're trying to build this momentum of peace through mutual understanding. We have many events a year. We're going to Sarasota tomorrow. We had our honored guest, Betty Castor, at a dinner. We had an early career reception where people shared strategies for using their Fulbright. So our chapter goes from Ocala down to Fort Myers, all the way east to Melbourne, and it's pretty much centered in Tampa, though. I'm president right now. Amela Malkick, who's USF Sarasota Manatee, will be president next year. We'll be here for a long time, so please consider joining.
Another question from the audience.
I would like to say thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Every one of them is so unique and really, really cool to listen to, and you all seem like really awesome people. So I can see why you were all chosen for the Fulbright Scholarship. I'm sure you guys looked at your applications recently before coming here, because that's what some of us are doing. I'm working on my application as well, still trying to figure out what I want to do or where I want to go. Given what you looked at from your application, do you remember what your strongest highlights were in the application, whether it be why you felt like you were the best candidate, whether you're a first generation American and your family's from Iran, my roommate as well as first generation American Iranian as well, and she also is really she's always saying humble. She's always looking for that humbleness in people, and I think it's really funny that you are the first one to say always be humble, because that's absolutely the kind of person she is as well. But whether it be what you're bringing back to America from your experience, what you're bringing to that host country, why you. So, whatever you think that strongest highlight on your application was, would you mind sharing that?
That's a really good
That's a really interesting question.
I would say, first and foremost, the mutual fit, right? So 2 things that you need to keep in mind. Why you, and then why is Fulbright good for you, to put it in the simplest way, and why are you good for Fulbright? It's kind of like, what are you going to do for me? What am I going to do for you? It's kind of like that exchange. And I think in looking back at the statement of grant and the personal statement, I think I was able, through many revisions, able to convey that, okay, this is my story, this is my background, these are the things I did when I was at the Honors College, these are the things I did as an intern, and how that all ties together. The most important thing is to look at your application like a puzzle, right? And you're putting all the pieces together. And so I think that was the highlight, because I remember, Ms. Chambers would say, okay, Rue, but what about Fulbright? Why Fulbright? And then what about you makes that connection there? So I was able to pull from that little pot and say, okay, well, I have a background in international studies and PR. That's what I want to do. This program specifically, and then it's about really getting, digging deep into, okay, for example, 72% at IE of students are international. This, and this, kind of like a checklist. And then on the flip side, I was able to say, okay, after I finish the Fulbright, I want to continue doing this. I want to connect with women in Spain. I think I was looking for stories of women who had fought the recession by building their own businesses. So I remember Googling, like in the New York Times, I found some stories. So it's little specific details like that that I think helped make the application stand out a little bit. And then what you'll realize too is that after the process, when you go into this, the selection committee, it's amazing because, for example, for the study grants in Spain, there were 4 of us. And each 4 of us at IE, one was getting an MBA, the other one was management. We had different programs, but each program for that girl was specifically, like it fit her very well. So it's kind of the same thing, whether it's teaching, you know, in Norway, so you can tell that she's very passionate and that you know, I want to connect with the Norwegians because of X, Y, Z. Or you can see that her background, okay, you know, her background matches what she's doing. So capability, are you capable? Is your, what Heather was saying, like, is your grant, is it feasible? Like, can you realistically do this? And finally, I think most importantly, are you aligning yourself with the mission and the values of the program? Not just, I want a scholarship because I have all these achievements and I want to do this. That's not enough. You have to realize that you're also, you know, around you, there's a lot of people saying the same thing. So what makes you unique to the Fulbright program?